Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I am David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey David, how are you doing tonight?
I was doing really, really good not so long ago,
Hmm.
but that was one of the most embittering losses for the Edmonton Oilers of the season. It's often said like if at the end of the year they don't make the playoffs and they're looking back at the season, they'll look, what will they remember? Well, this game might stand out, Bruce.
Oh,
Up by a goal, hard fought comeback up by a goal, probably in a game where you really don't deserve to be there. You've been outplayed. Your goalies really played well, aside from one bad goal against. But your goalies played a number and made a number of great saves. And you give up to a team that the fan base hates. I hate the Dallas Stars. I think most Oilers fans hate the Dallas Stars. We have memories of playoff series past that just stick in our craw with that
mm.
team. So to lose to that team, it's just really frustrating, Bruce. That was a frustrating loss. How are you doing?
I'm frustrated. Um,
Yes.
I'm going to be biting my tongue a little bit because the air is a little blue around here from the last uh, ending part of the game. The Oilers got to the last TV timeout with a one-goal lead, and I'm thinking to myself, well, no guarantee they're going to hang on and win, but they should at least get another point out of this
Mm-hmm.
road trip. Come home with at least 2 points and
Yeah.
have a shot at it, and it wasn't like a minute later. Like it was 5:55, they went to the TV timeout, and by 4:58, the Oilers were behind by a goal, and with two absolutely brutal defensive coverage problems. And I mean, so anyway, it was a rough night at the office. They left a lot of energy out there, a lot of ice time on some of the players, and unfortunately, nothing to show for it. Not a point even to show for that game, and 2 points for their opponent that they're chasing in the standings, and probably two lost points to LA Kings are leading by a 3-0 margin early in their game, and only a loss by Vegas sort of at least means they didn't lose ground to Vegas, but they could have distanced two more points on Vegas tonight if they knew how to close out a damn hockey game, and they showed really that they had no clue how to do that.
Which is my bad thing. This is
Hmm.
the two good
Go
things, two
for it.
bad things, and two numbers podcast. And I'll start off with my bad thing, which is
Might as
the
well.
collapse at the end of the game.
Hmm.
How does that happen, Bruce? I mean, we know how it happens. NHL players are really fast and really good, and they punish you quickly for the slightest mistakes you make, the slightest errors in judgment that you make. But in that final 5, 10 minutes, you'd think that you just play it super cautiously and you take care not to make mistakes. And I didn't, the two goals that occurred, one with five at the 5:22 mark left in the game, the other one 4:58, I believe, um, in
Yeah.
succession. They were just terrible goals against. Um, I don't know. I don't know what happened. There was four players back as Dallas was rushing in on their to get the tying goal. Four
Mm.
Oilers back,
And they gave up a
but
break.
three of them, Bruce, were flat-footed at the
Yeah.
blue line. CC was backing up to cover his man, who had the
Hmm.
puck and then passed it off. Everyone else was flat-footed, and I'll deal with two of them, Yamamoto and Shore. Yamamoto had a tough play to make. He was kind of caught going one way and went the other. But I don't know what Shore was doing. He could, if he was just moving his feet, if he was just moving defensively, playing it cautiously. I don't know. Maybe they're instructed you got to stand up at the blue line um, more than anything else. But how about playing it cautiously? Because he just got turnstiled as I think was it Hintz, Rupee Hintz,
Rupee hints. Yeah.
went past him, and it ended up with a breakaway goal. breakaway chance. There's four guys at the blue line, four guys back, and you give up a breakaway from that moment on.
How the hell does that
Ex-
happen?
And then the next goal against CC turns it over in the neutral zone. It's kind of a weird play. It's trying to chip it up the boards, and they rush in on a 2-on-1, make the pass over. And Connor McDavid's a little slow on the back check. And this is one of the I always wonder about this. McDavid initially recognized there was trouble here, and he
Yeah.
hustled hard to get back. But
Hmm.
just as he was about to cover the guy who was going to score the goal, he stopped skating.
Yeah.
And this is very common, and it might be they're afraid that guy's going to turn and they'll lose him maybe, or they're going to run into him, or because you see this again and again and again. It's not a bug. It's a feature of hockey where players will stop. So they must be thinking they're going to hit the guy, or they're getting too close to go that fast. So they stop and they start to cruise just as they're about to close on him to take him out of the play. And it's an interesting because you see it again and again and again and again, and I'm sure all hockey players do it all the time. But I don't know
Well,
why.
not all, but
Not all. Maybe yeah. Maybe
McDavid did there. He had to just keep his feet moving and go hard for the stick of Denis Gurianov, which he recognized, and he just missed lifting his stick at the end. But if he'd taken two strides where he stopped to glide and watch the puck, he's got him. You know.
yeah.
Tell you what, Connor, you want to be Sidney Crosby? Keep your feet moving and get the guy's stick because it's a 200-foot game out there.
Well, maybe that's the difference between the Selke Award winning defensive forwards, and right now
Yeah.
Connor McDavid and other Oiler forwards. Because there's not any Oiler forwards who I see or who are outstanding on defense right now, including McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't see either of them. I like they have their moments, but then both of them have moments like these, and I just think why? Because you're so close to being at that level of player, of that true two-way player who's outstanding, and it's just moments like that that hold both of them back from reaching that next level of excellence as a hockey player, as hockey players. And it costs them games. It costs the Edmonton Oilers games.
It cost him
And it
this game. I mean,
cost them this game. It was one of the
yeah.
things, not the only
Yes.
thing. It was
Well,
one
of
of the
course.
things
That was
that
a
cost them those
contributing
games.
factor on the game losing goal against, or
Now
as
there's
Dallas
another,
Stars call it, game-winning goal.
yeah, there's another Oilers star player, Bruce, who you are going to mention here, and he was culpable on these last two goals against. But not only that, I got to go deal with the dryer here because the beeper's going off and people might hear that. But I'll let you start to clear the air about Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, my bad thing tonight is Darnell Nurse, Oilers' #1 defenseman, who had a pretty miserable time of it out there tonight. And how miserable was he made significant defensive errors on the first, third, and fourth Dallas goals, and he was sitting in the penalty box for a marginal but totally unnecessary penalty for the second Dallas goal. So Nurse was, in one way or another, part of the problem on the first four Dallas goals, which basically they won that game 4-3. And you just need a lot better defense from all your defensemen. That game would be unacceptable from a #6 defenseman, let alone a #1. But Darnell was just uh, his he was in the wrong spot, I don't know what he was doing that not reading and reacting and doing his defensive coverage thing. And he's got this bad habit that seems to be getting worse. When he gets into trouble in the defensive zone, he tries to drop down to one knee or drop all the way down to the ice to try and take away space. And anytime Darnell is down, the Oilers are in trouble because now he's rooted. His biggest strength is his feet and his legs and his skating ability, and his mobility and his
Yeah,
reach and his ability to cover a lot of space. Well, guess what? When you're down on the ice, if you got one knee pinned to the ice, you're not going anywhere. Your stick can only reach so far. And on the first goal, he dropped down on one knee outside of the shooting lane. He reached in with his stick to try and block the shot. And as I saw it, he got a piece of the shot, and that's what fooled Koskinen. the live angle view, I thought it went off the shaft of Darnell's stick and through. But either way, he wasn't in the shooting lane and he wasn't defending the shot because he was down on one knee. He wasn't like giving any kind of contest to the guy letting the shot go. So there was that. Then there was the second goal where he was in the box for just stepping up and giving a guy a light cross check. I mean, it was a cheap penalty. Let's face it.
Terrible penalty.
The
Crap.
call. Jesse Puljujarvi had been dropped on his head in the far corner about 10 seconds before that, which was fine. And then Darnell got called for that. But the fact is, he didn't need to do it. He did it. The ref called him, and off he went. And he was in the box for what 8 seconds? It seemed like it was in the net 16 seconds. Well, there you go. It just went straight from the face-off to a goal for Dallas. And then with the Oilers leading 3-2 late in the third period on this 3-on-4 rush, and Cece is in position on the right side backing in. There's two forwards that somehow are both in the center to the left side of the ice. So Nurse, the left defenseman, decides he can abandon his post and come over to the right side to support Cece. And of course, one quick pass later, the puck's on Nurse's side of the ice, and there's two forwards left to cover. And you'd like to think that one of the two might be able to make the play, but they couldn't. And when Gurianov burst through, well, guess what? No, it wasn't Gurianov. Sorry, that was Hintz.
That was Hintz, yeah.
No left defenseman. So he's in alone on goal, bam, in the net. So the Oilers change off most of their lines, but they leave out Cece and Nurse for the next face-off, and then Cece gets the puck in the neutral zone. He can't get the puck deep, and all of a sudden there's a 2-on-1 going the other way with McDavid trying to catch up, and Nurse is the man back, and he's in pretty good position until he basically corkscrews himself right into the ice, takes himself out of the shooting lane. The guy just holds the puck for an extra half second, slides it across, tap in. And Nurse is a pretzel in the middle of the ice. I mean, what is that? That was just an absolutely miserable game from the Oilers' top defenseman, and it cost him. I mean, flat out cost him the game. When you add up all those mistakes on all of the Dallas goals that mattered, I mean, it's not good enough.
Fans here used to criticize Russell for the starfish. We haven't seen Russell as much do that as of late. In fact, Russell tonight was very active on the attack, as an aside. But Bruce, we have seen more and more of this from Nurse, him going down and getting caught. And it's not like when he goes down, he blocks the pass. When he goes down, he usually doesn't block it. I mean, it seems to be more of a problem than it's assisting him, to the point where some, like, they should say, like, is this working? Maybe. I agree with you. His best strength is using his fast feet and long reach, long stick to get to the puck, and stay on your feet and go for the puck that way. I think he will have more success. I don't know. We're not NHL hockey expert coaches, skill coaches, or defensive tacticians, but just from observation, I don't remember him going down in the past so much, and I don't remember him making so many of these kinds of mistakes in the past. So he's doing this. He's using this tactic more, and it seems to me it's failing quite often. So maybe it's time to put together a little video package of all the successful plays that he makes when he stays on his feet, and say, "Hey, do this, Darnell," and then just slide in one of last night's goal as well, right at the end.
Well, that's the Jay Woodcroft way: 4 good things, 1 bad thing. But he's going to have to find about 12 good things to show Darnell to slide in the replays of those major mistakes tonight. Sorry, David.
30
make you snort your
30 good things.
Coffee.
They're gonna have to spend like an hour looking at all the good things he did for the last year, and then watch the highlights from last night's game.
Well, shots on net with Nurse on the ice in 17 minutes of 5-on-5 was 5 for the Oilers and 15 for the Stars.
Yeah, and he just was struggling. He was struggling. And it's not like Cece's particularly struggling. Like he did make the turnover tonight on that last goal. But time for Darnell Nurse to crank it up. And this means, he seems physically okay. He seems like he's ready to go. He just needs to make better reads. He needs to crank that aspect of his game. We know that he works hard. It's a student of the game, studying the game. He did that with Jim Playfair last summer. He goes over every single game They do 10 games at a time with Play Fair, and they go through it. This guy is as serious hockey guy as they come.
It is.
So he's gonna get on this, and he will correct it. And to be fair to Nurse, according to the way we rate the game in terms of the way I rate the game in terms of scoring chances, major contributions for and major mistakes against, almost exactly where he was last year, is the truth. And last year I thought he had a pretty good year. I don't think he's having a bad year. He's having a pretty good year, but he started out a lot stronger than he's finishing. He's been in an extended defensive slump for about 2 months now, where his numbers just keep getting worse and worse and worse, including in terms of grade A shots. Tonight's not going to help any. And he's got to reverse this trend and start to play down the stretch like the number one defenseman that he looked like at the start of the year. He does. And if he doesn't do it, and then if he doesn't do it in the playoffs, this team is not going anywhere because they're counting on Darnell Nurse. Yeah. I mean, they didn't count on him so much tonight, did they? Because they only played him about 21 minutes as opposed to 24, 25. So that's a bit of a message there perhaps as well from the coach. Maybe that speaks louder than any video review you're going to do. All right, we started with the bad things because I think that was appropriate tonight. But there was some good things, Bruce. There was some good things. And I'm going to start, I'll start it off. I thought it looks like, I'm probably jumping the gun here, but it looks like right now, for the first time since the start of the season, maybe the Oilers have two healthy goalies who are ready to play some good games. Smith had a good game, a decent game, at least a good game against the Colorado Avalanche last night. And Mikko Koskinen, aside from one, there's always one goal a game, it seems like, with Mikko Koskinen, or there's often one goal a game with Mikko Koskinen where you just think, what the heck happened there? But other than that, he was really strong tonight. I mean, Jack Michaels and Louis DeBrusk remarked on it. The number of saves that he made in the second period after letting in that goal. He made the Dallas Stars had 5 grade A shots the rest of that period. In the final 10 minutes of that period, they had 5 grade A shots, Bruce. Every single one of them was a 5-alarm shot, according to our assessment. Every single one of them had a 33% plus chance of going in. These are the hardest shots to stop in the NHL. And he saved every single one of them. You'd expect probably, well, he let in the one goal. The goal he let in turned out to be a 5-alarm shot because he made it that with his bad rebound control. But 6 5-alarm shots. He should have let in 2 goals. He just let in 1. He kept the Oilers in the game after his mistake. Now, the mistake was bad. He goes to stop it with his blocker, and it bounced off his blocker in a weird way. Instead of directing it where it should have gone into the corner, it bounced off awkwardly back the other direction to Joe Pavelski, and he scored of all people. Just like, what was the other one where he passed it to right? He passed it to some sniper the other game. Do you remember that one? Yeah. Right on that. Remember that? Who did he pass that to?
Kubalik.
Oh, Kubalik.
In Chicago.
So, yeah. So, okay. So again, of course, it's the power play. There is going to be a sniper and a good scorer in front of the net, and he scored. But I thought Mikko Koskinen looked good, and he played well tonight. And so did Mike Smith the other night. So, again, for things to turn out for the Oilers, they have a lot. The Edmonton Oilers have a lot going for them as a team. They really do. They have an outstanding group of forwards who, when they put their mind to it, are brilliant on the attack and pretty good on defense. They're going to have to ramp it up on defense, all of them. From the top of the roster to the bottom of the roster, they're going to have to ramp it up on defense to improve, but they can do that. They've shown they can do that, and they're doing it. But they need the goalies to come through. And I thought both goalies are looking good just now. Hopefully they can stay healthy.
Yeah, hopefully they can stay healthy. And I mean, they're going to need to, with the way the schedule is, this week, 4 games in 6 days. Well, they've got 2 goalies and they're playing 2 games each with 2 days off between games. That's, that's sort of normal work rate for those guys. But as soon as you start counting on one guy to be playing 3, let alone all 4 of those games on an ongoing basis, then you're asking for trouble. And this is really the first time all year that they've got the 2 guys where they actually both look healthy.
Yeah. And Roland maybe, well, it's a little early with Smith. Let's see, but fingers crossed here.
Healthier.
Healthier with Smith and
Yeah.
rolling Gee, rolling somewhat. What's your good thing, Bruce?
Well, I like the way the Oilers started this game. I thought they had a very strong first period. I thought Jake Ottinger in the Dallas net made a couple of really fantastic saves to hold Dallas in the game. In fact, Edmonton led 1-0 through uh, 26 minutes, I guess it was, and they had uh, five what we call grade A chances, but again, there was uh, five alarm chances, several of them. And Ottinger, he robbed Yamamoto on a one-timer. He robbed Puljujarvi on a one-timer on a nice three-way passing play. That was, pass went right across, hard across the slot, and Puljujarvi slammed it in the short side. It looked like, and Ottinger read it and got over there. And uh, Edmonton was, I thought, by some margin, the better team, and then Dallas got the tying goal, and all of a sudden Edmonton sort of the rest of the second period were reeling, and it was 2-1 uh, Dallas at the end of the second, and then it got, of course, the other, I guess, good thing was the quick, fast, shorthanded goal followed quickly by the goal right at the end of the penalty that converted that deficit into a one-goal lead and put Edmonton into the winning position that they ultimately couldn't hold. But there was good stretches in there. And there was some good hockey in there, but there wasn't any kind of sustain. It wasn't 60 minutes of good hockey. So, and that's what you need to play to beat other contending teams, especially in their barn. It's very disappointing to come out of this trip with 1 point.
The games are so tight, eh? Like all
Yeah.
these games, they're
Yep.
all tough hockey games in the NHL now. Um, so let's go to our numbers, Bruce. My number is 10 points in 7 games. This is Cutter Yamamoto's scoring. So this is essentially, I think, coincides with him being put on the top line with Connor McDavid and Evander Kane. It is a fantastic hockey line. I didn't look up their numbers. Maybe I will in a second here as a line, but they're really starting to get it going. And Yamamoto at times, like there is a competition right now. We've mentioned this before for a new contract. The Oilers have a limited amount of money to give out, especially if they can't figure out a way to dump some contracts that aren't working out this summer. So they have Puljujarvi, Kane, and Yamamoto. These are 3 wingers you'd want to keep at this point. I mean, Evander Kane's play is outstanding. His physical presence, his toughness, his goal scoring. Man, he's winning over in terms of his on ice play. Oiler fan after Oiler fan. It's hard not to like what he brings. But so is Cutter Yamamoto, and his goal was kind of a sneaky one. I mean, you can watch that replay the different angles and different replays many times, and it's hard to see him actually touch the puck, but he does.
Doesn't take
And
much. It was
doesn't
like the Nurse deflection on the first Dallas goal.
yeah.
It only changed direction of the puck a little bit, but it was a little bit between hitting the goalie somewhere in the pad and finding a hole.
This goal started with Kane winning the puck behind the net with a really hard hockey play, and then McDavid giving the old low high dart. He over to Bouchard at the point, and Evan Bouchard does what he does, which is just fire that puck. I want to see him shoot more, and he gets that on net, and Yamamoto tips it in. So this line is scoring. I think this is what the Oilers need. This is one of the things you need. You need an elite line, and we're not yet seeing Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, and Hyman connect as much. But I think that's a really good line as well. It's like the Oilers have what other teams would classify as first lines. The Oilers have 2 first lines.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Seems to
sure.
me when they've got 2 first lines. You can win a lot of hockey games. You should win a lot of hockey games when you have 2 first lines. And this is why I'm bullish on the Oilers. So Yamamoto's stepping up, and he's making a claim to be part of this team going forward into the future to get a new contract. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to figure out a way to sign at least 2 out of 3 of those players, Bruce. And good luck doing that. But that's the challenge for the Oilers GM this summer.
Yeah, he's got a tall order. He's got Ryan McLeod, who but I think that's a different contract to sign,
Yeah.
but he's also coming up. So four forwards, but certainly those three wingers that are currently now all in the top six are huge priorities, and I'm not sure there's room for all three of them because of how other money has already been allocated.
Yeah. What is your number?
My number is 0 for 3. That's the sorry total from Edmonton's power play tonight. 0 for 5 on the 2-game road trip where every power play goal they might have scored would have been worth at least one standings point. Kind of stings to leave all of that on the cutting room floor. And tonight they had 3 opportunities on the power play. One to build on their 1-0 lead late in the first, and I think they got one chance, or early in the second, I guess. They got one chance on that power play, and they couldn't put it away. And then a huge one down the stretch, leading 3-2 with 8 minutes left, and a power play goal there makes it 4-2, and you'd like to think that's a pretty comfortable position. And again, they couldn't produce any dangerous shots, just one shot on net on that power play. None of them dangerous, and only 4 shots on the power play all night, and only one grade A shot out of that, and 0 goals, and not good enough power play. You got some mighty fine, high-priced talent on there. Well, part of that price is being paid for production, not just pretty passes around the perimeter, but and they got to beat good NHL penalty killing teams. It's not easy, of course, and you're not just going to throw your sticks on the ice and score every time, but they got to bear down and figure out something that works, because there's too much goal scoring talent on there to go 0 for on entire road trip, as has happened in this case. And it hurts. All these 1-goal games, power play goals are huge, huge. And so that's kind of snuck in my second bad thing, but with that little number. But the key words there are O for power play.
What would
And
you do, Bruce, to fix that power play? If you
yeah,
have one suggestion?
not a tactician. Yeah, well, the main out of the 6 minutes that they didn't score tonight, they had 5:01 each for the main group, and maybe they need to do a little bit of more personnel shuffling. I really don't know that, but minute and 40 seconds per power play for the first unit, and nothing to show for it. I don't think it's a motivational thing. I don't know what the heck it is, but the execution just isn't there. And when they do get a chance, they're not making the shot.
What if you put Evan Bouchard on the left half wall where he could shoot from there? So you have
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl on the one side, on the right,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Bouchard on the left, and Barry setting them up. And then you have Kane in the middle and McDavid roaming around. Um,
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing a real shooter in that spot. I mean, I think I would rather have Bouchard than Barry out there.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't even necessarily criticism of Tyson Barry. He's a really good player. He sets them up. He makes good passes. But Bouchard has the ability to more quickly and accurately get off a shot than Tyson Barry on net. So I would either get Evan Bouchard out there with Barry, or I'd get both of them out there. With Bouchard, setting Bouchard up for that one timer on the half wall. I mean, the threat of Draisaitl on one side and Bouchard on the other. I would like to see that. I think that would be that would be very scary, because not only can both of those guys shoot, Bouchard can really pass this, and Draisaitl. They both are excellent passers of the puck. So they can be setting each other up cross seam sometimes. So I guess Nuge will be back, so they probably won't try that. But I've always wondered what it would be like to have Bouchard in that spot, firing away. Um, See if that would work.
Well, he has 2 power play goals all year, Bouchard, and they both came in the same period of the same game. When they first put him on the power play, he got 2 against Calgary that one game. And if I'm not mistaken, those were no, he got 1 goal again 2 days later than that, January 27th, and he's now gone 24 games without a goal. So he's got to find that great shot of his that we all know he has. And I've been confidently predicting he'd be a double-digit goal scorer for years to come. And he's been stuck on 9 for a while. I'm kind of getting impatient for that double digit. I mean,
He almost
and
got that one tonight,
he
but
did have a good shot tonight that Yamamoto tipped in. And of course, that's just as good. Obviously, you want shots that get through that can be tipped by teammates count just as much. But uh, his his weapon is it just doesn't seem to be fine. I mean, he's gotten lots of shots, so he must be like 0 for 50 shots or something by now because he is overdue. But him on the power play is one option, and maybe just mixing up the personnel a bit more and changing the ice time. The thing is, the first unit's got so much more talent than the second. So I guess maybe my other solution is bring back Ryan Nugent-Hopkins from the injury list and put him back out there. And I think that might be happening as soon as next game.
I think so too, and that'll help. I mean, he's fantastic. That said, he hadn't scored on the power play.
All year.
Yeah. So again, I wouldn't mind.
Assists galore, but no goals.
Like, I don't know if you could have McDavid at the top running the power play, or Nugent Hopkins at the top running the power play instead of a defenseman. But I would like to see Bouchard in that shooter spot. I like to see shooters in the shooter spots. Now, Nuge does a great job there, so I'm not going to complain too much. But just something they could try out and have that in your pocket. Maybe next season, of course, when they got the whole season to play with, they could go with that. But all right, Bruce. So they play Thursday night in Edmonton against San Jose
Sharks, and then they go down to Calgary to play the Flames on Saturday night.
Good. Time for some revenge in Calgary, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, if hopefully what will happen with tonight's game will piss them off, and they'll take some motivation from it and say we're better than that, and we're going to play better than that. But
yeah,
then that's not some kind of turning point that, we've had a 5-game winning streak, time for another lull for a while, because there's no time for lulls.
Time to crank it up.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Sutter and Calgary is when a coach is winning, Daryl Sutter is a genuinely interesting person, right? He is a funny person. He says interesting things.
He does.
He's a curmudgeon, and he
is.
But when you're winning, everything you say is held up as a nugget of genius. Like this wonderful nugget from this semi-articulate person.
Wise old man.
Yeah, wise old man.
Worldly wise, Daryl Sutter.
When you're losing and the same thing happens,
you
ever just thinks you're a dummy. Like, get rid of that bum.
And
Sutter's experienced both in his career, right? His career is the accurate word. Like, he's been up and down as an NHL coach.
He's had a lot, David.
He has been up a lot, Bruce. That is true. Got to give him credit. He is a hell of a hockey coach. He really is. And I do get a kick out of what he says, but I do also know that there's kind of this halo around everything he says because of the Flames record right now. So, and of course, I hate the Calgary Flames. On your pyramid of hatred, Bruce, who's at the top and who's at the next rung? Like, so for me, at the very top, I'm just trying to think of it's like there's the Flames, the Ducks, the Kings, the Stars, and the Maple Leafs. But I think it's at the top of my personal pyramid. It is probably.
Wow.
I don't know. Is it this? It could be this. It could be the Stars. Actually, I just hate them so much. What about you?
Well, this cheers me up. The Sharks came back in the third period with 2 goals in 28 seconds. Sound familiar? To beat the Flames 4-3. Same score other than the empty net goal. 2 goals. What was it for us? 2 goals in 24 seconds.
All right. All
The
right.
exact same thing happened to Calgary, where they were in a winning position more than halfway through the third period, and then bam, bam, and they were in a losing position, and then they could not
Uh,
recover. So
I was hoping you would say the King
Calgary,
lost.
Calgary is atop my personal list for ancient historic reasons that are centered around 1986, but for
Badger Bob.
several years to either side of that. Yeah, Badger Bob, but also,
The seven
Gary
things. The seven
Suter,
secrets.
Neil Sheehy, Paul Baxter,
Yeah.
guys like that, Joel Otto, Jim
Remember his.
Kaplinski, Mike Burnett. Oh, God.
Remember Badger Bob's 7 secrets for beating the Oilers.
Yeah, I never did read it. I don't think I ever read the seven, but I do remember that one was to force the play to the left-hand side, and with that, he was absolutely right because the Oilers had 4 left-hand shooters that like to go from right wing into the middle of the ice to make their shots, and Badger Bob figured out that important detail.
When I was a young feature writer at the Journal, I went down to Calgary to do a profile of Badger Bob
Oh yeah,
Johnson. And one of these sidebars was that I asked him what were like this was
okay,
a couple years later, right?
right,
A number
okay.
and I did a sidebar on what those 7 things were, and I can't remember what they were myself, but hold Gretzky's hockey stick, probably hold Messier's hockey stick, hold the trip Glenn Anderson. These are probably high.
Change the rules against 4-on-4 penalties because they're better at us than we are. So whine about the rules and get the league to change the 4-on-4 rules. I'm still bitter about that.
Good.
That happened in 1985.
Good.
Immediately next season, Calgary beat Edmonton in a 7-game series with lots of thuggery and coincidental minors that would have been 4-on-4s. And
All righty. Bruce,
all the
I'll
California teams are on my list, David. Dallas Stars are on my list of teams that I
yeah.
really don't like. Las
We
Vegas
have a
Golden
similar
Knights
list,
are
Bruce.
moving up the list. And
We have a similar list. Our list is not, although the Maple Leafs aren't on your list, they're just on my list.
yeah,
They're not really on my list. The Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens are kind of on my list, but it's more like I'm just annoyed by their fans when I go to the games and I'm not, their fans they strike me as obnoxious. They're not obnoxious, I'm sure. They're just whooping it up and having fun. But I hate it in Edmonton
yeah.
when the visiting team's fans are so loud and boisterous. So that's the root of my antipathy towards those two teams, plus the constant attention to the Toronto Maple Leafs
Hmm.
uh, but that's not as they are that's kind of a lower level of. I could even find myself cheering for the Leafs. I'm sure, like if they were in the Cup final, I wouldn't mind if they won, probably. But these other teams, not a chance. Never for the Flames. I didn't cheer for the Flames against Tampa. I was
No,
hoping they
neither did
would
I.
lose, and I was glad that they lost. Many people in
Actually,
Edmonton.
I rooted for the Flames to beat Vancouver that year. I really disliked that Vancouver team
Oh yeah,
in
they're also on
'04,
my list.
the Todd Bertuzzi era.
Yeah,
So
that
anyway,
team was on my list as a
I have Matt Cook
yeah,
on it.
Yaksa.
So
Yeah.
Yurku Rutu, that team. Anyway, Calgary
Talk
against
to you later,
Vancouver.
Bruce.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.